party's over.
I don't think so.
Take a seat. We would be honored if you would join us.
Welcome to Star Wars After Party. We're here to rebuild the entire galaxy, or at least, this portion of the internet. We'd be honored if you would join us. It's going to be a great time. Got a little bit of, some kind of sad news, but, we'll round it out with some good times. Nothing you haven't heard of. Mainly, we're talking about Legos. Rebuild the galaxy. Tyler Bodkins has been in this fight since I was 8 years old, and I can do it. I can talk about it, but I'm going to need some help. I know who can help us. The greatest hero of all time, Cameron Porter.
You can rebuild the galaxy, but you just can't put it back.
There it is. There it is. Man, I didn't think that, we're going to get into it. I didn't think that I was going to be like, I need season 2 of Star Wars Lego Rebuild the Galaxy, but I'm ready for it, and we're going to talk all about it, and I can't wait to do that. Let's kick it off with how about let's just start with a really somber note.
Yep.
So Darth Vader himself, James Earl Jones, passed away this past week.
Become one with the Force.
He has. I mean, on the positive side, lived a long life.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like he had a pretty good time. I mean, he voiced a lot of great characters, a tremendous actor. I mean, he did a lot. It seemed like he had a good time to me. I mean, I'm glad he was around. It was a bummer. You sent me a sign in our hometown, like he's on the billboards around here. I don't know about where you guys live, but
it's one of those electric signs that like flashes from one ad to the next.
Yeah,
there's a picture of him in black and white, and it said Tour de Force, and then it had the years of his birth and death.
Man, absolute legend. He retired a few years back. Because I want to say that it was when Obi-Wan came out. It was announced that his I don't know if it was his estate or he himself or what, but had signed away, I guess, the rights to perpetually use his voice. Because everything in Obi-Wan was, I guess, AI. I think it was the re-speecher technology, if I'm not mistaken. And honestly, it sounds great.
Sounded great, yeah.
Sounded awesome.
And that's the benefit of a character with a voice alterator. It's like it doesn't have to be perfect.
Absolutely, because that to me is the most offensive part still of like the Luke Skywalker stuff and Book of Boba Fett. Which, by the way, the jump in technology between Mando season 2 to Book of Boba Fett a year later was wild.
Oh yeah,
and this is crazy. It's been like 3 years since the Book of Boba Fett.
Dang.
So you can imagine it's probably gotten better, but specifically like what you said, having all the effects just makes it so much easier
to mask.
And so, it's cool. His presence is going to be felt forever.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing, man, is like all these other characters. I mean, with AI becoming what it is, I saw just the other day, Andy Serkis is directing the Hunt for Gollum movies, which I think now there are going to be 2 of them. And he was talking about using AI to help, like, make Gandalf, Legolas, maybe Aragorn all younger. And so, like, it's just the way it is,
Yeah.
You just use AI for all that stuff. But, again, having his voice and being able to have Darth Vader stories forever and it not be... I just don't think it's strange. Like, I think it's just going to be like, it's the way it is. Like, it's his voice and it sounds like Darth Vader. So... I'm obviously sad to lose a legend, but I'm grateful that while he was here, I guess he thought to, secure his legacy in some way.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that, we'll hear his voice forever, as long as we're around.
Yeah.
So pretty cool, man.
Yeah.
Some other news. Let's talk about it. It's going to tie into our wants and wishes for, I guess it would be season 2 of Rebuild the Galaxy. I really thought it was like a mini series, man. I thought it was one and done.
Yeah, me too. Well, we were getting to like the end of the last episode, and I was like,
There's a lot
it
left.
doesn't feel like they're going to wrap this thing
Right.
up. And then they kind of left it hanging.
Yeah, but it'll tie into that. Let's talk about some Lando news.
Yeah.
So I sent you. Let me tell you something about Cameron Porter, everybody. The man is very consistent in what he wants in his Star Wars.
That's true.
And I got to be honest, it's not an unreasonable request. You know, sometimes I feel like some of my requests might be a little bit out there. You know, I'm like, can we make it do all of these crazy things and then make it all tie into? Yeah, I get a little out there with the whole third eye tinfoil hat thing. But Cameron, tell the people what you want with your Star Wars, please.
I want fun.
He just wants it to be fun.
Just make it fun.
And so whenever Donald Glover was talking with, I don't know if it was Variety, that's where I'm looking. Oh, it was with the Wall Street Journal. He said about his Lando movie, he says, I just want it to be fun. It's basically Cameron,
a man after my own heart.
are you Childish Gambino? Like,
Yeah,
I've
dude,
never seen you and
yeah.
Childish Gambino in the same place.
He and I have been on some calls together.
All right, okay. I just want it to be fun. As a Star Wars fan myself, I think it's important that there needs to be fun being had. It's very hard to have fun right now. It's tough because there are very serious things happening, and those are the only things that connect us, weirdly. So I get why things are serious, but part of the human experience, I believe, is we have a responsibility to have enjoyment.
Bingo.
And I just feel like we're lacking in that department. There's a new Childish Gambino song. I want to say it's track like 9. I can't remember what the name. It's one of the more like hip hop focused tracks of his new album. And there's a line where he just says, "It's my life, I must enjoy it." So he's just
right.
saying it. I mean, I feel the same way. I mean, I definitely enjoy my life.
I want to see this Lando movie play real well with Solo.
Yeah,
it's like watch Solo, watch Lando.
Dude, I mean, it's, we talked about it. Like you were just telling me the other day, or it was on the very last pod that we talked, and you were mentioning the fact of like just being on a stretch, like a stretch of just fun Star Wars, and Solo is definitely that. We talked about how much fun it was compared to a lot of other things Star Wars, and it seems like Donald Glover is right there with us, that he just wants to have a fun Star Wars movie. So hearing him say that, what are your thoughts? Like, are you just like,
it's encouraging to me. It's good to know that somebody else out there that's working on Star Wars projects has that mentality, and it doesn't have to be something cryptic or dark. Because I mean, we've talked at length. Like, I love dark Star Wars too.
Yeah. Like Andor
Black, white,
is a
and
great
red.
example.
Andor. Yeah, I like the kind of mysterious, like kind of horror, suspenseful Star Wars.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm just on this kick with things kind of being a lot lighter. We've talked at length about coming off the heels of the Acolyte being such a deep dive, or one that you really got to dig into to really get everything out of. I don't know. And maybe it may have something to do with like where I'm at in life. I just kind of want something easily digestible between having all the jobs that I have and responsibilities and stuff. It's like when I sit down to watch Star Wars, I want to be able to study as like a secondary effect. I want to enjoy and I want to get wrapped up in a storyline, and then by association, I want to be studying Star Wars. Like I was picking up on stuff when I was watching Solo, not because I was looking for it, but because I was just wrapped up, and there were references getting thrown around left and right. You know, talking about Bosk, or talking about what's her name from episode 1?
It's coming to me.
Sing.
Aura Singh, yeah.
Yeah. It's like
you
those
killed Aura Singh?
Yeah. The fall killed her. But like those things just kind of come a lot more naturally when things are flow. It's almost like when you're writing a song, or when you're listening to a song and things are just really falling into place. You're not really trying to like put this drum part in there, or you're not trying to like do a cool bass hook. It's just like
flow state.
Everything is just flowing, and it's like, oh, this will fit right here. This will fit right here. And things, you're like watching everything like get put together. So yeah, fun Star Wars, much more easy to digest. We've talked a lot about how we're at a time where I feel like we're ushering in a new generation of like Star Wars fans that are just starting to get into it. So like, give them stuff that's like easy to chew on. to get you locked in, and then go watch all of Clone Wars in 3 months or something.
Yeah.
So,
You mentioned that you felt like it was where you're at in life. Like you mentioned just being busy and having a lot of responsibility. I think that it's partially that. I think it's also just kind of the world that we're in right now. Like, you know, not to get too real world out there, but it's like coming out of COVID over the last few years, going into another contentious. It seems like that election cycles just get more and more contentious.
Yeah.
Like it's not even like it's just the same. It just doubles down every time. And I think that anytime you lean super far. Talked about this with the Acolyte. Anytime you lean super far into one extreme, it begins to make you sort of long and want the other. So as serious and as tense as the real world seems to be out there, it just makes people, I think, want to retreat more into just relax and having fun with entertainment, which I think is fair. And like, you know, we mentioned like, we do like serious Star Wars. Like I really enjoyed the Acolyte. I love Andor. I think it's great. I'm super pumped for Andor season 2 next year.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why I would say that while Andor season 1, to me, I'll already call it, it's a masterpiece. Like to me, it's a masterpiece. It's masterful across many levels, from writing, cinematography, score. I had a music student that I was working with the other day, and he was he was wanting to practice like scoring some videos. And so as a exercise, I suggested, hey, he's a big Star Wars fan. I was like, hey, let's just pick a Star Wars scene and let's score it. And so we were both like, Andor. And we were going through, and just like in the 2 or 3 minutes of an Andor scene that I watched, it was just like, oh man, the way that camera was just panning. Like there's just so much. It's a masterpiece. However, I would never call Andor my favorite Star Wars, because there's like a balance to it. You know, yes, it sort of interrogates good versus evil, but also George would balance it with fun, and you know, there would be excitement and adventure, but there would also be moments of reflection. Like it's more of like a balancing of all the things. I feel like that's what George did. And so I'm with you whenever it's like, we enjoy the serious stuff, but also at some point, like, that's what we say. I
kind of want to kick back.
Lightsabers are cool. You know? Let's get into all the cool philosophical. Let's get into all that, but also lightsabers are cool. And I feel like, you know, Donald Glover to me has been on a kick lately. I feel like it started with, I loved him in Community, and I've dug his music for a while, but I feel like ever since he did Awaken My Love, going into Atlanta, his last couple albums, I really enjoyed him on that Mr. and Mrs. Smith show. There's just so much that he's done lately that's just killer. I mean, I really hope that his project actually happens.
I don't know how he does it all. I mean, I don't really listen to his music. I used to listen to a lot of it when I was in high school and like early college. But just to think about someone who can just succeed on so many like mediums, comedy, acting, producing, writing music, it's a lot. It's,
I was talking with an artist friend about this, and we'll get off of it, but I was talking with an artist friend. I was at like an art opening, and I like to listen to music when I look at art. And so I'm like, got my headphones on, I'm jamming, I see her, I'm like, hey, what's up? And she's like, what do you listen to? I'm sure I wouldn't know, but what is it? It was the new Childish Gambino album. She's like, I love Donald Glover. And we talked about it, and I think the biggest thing with Donald Glover, and I feel the same, there's just no lines for him. He just doesn't. It's all creative. Like to me, I learned this working with a buddy on like YouTube stuff. I didn't know how to use a camera. I didn't know how to write story. I didn't know how to do any of that until I realized, it's all the same. It's all imagination. It's all creative. The only lines and boxes are the ones that we put ourselves in.
Yeah.
And so I think that Donald just kind of ignores it, which is why his music is so a lot of times like out there, and his ideas are so wild and crazy. I think it's what people like about him. I mean, that's what I like about his stuff. He just kind of does what he wants. I mean, there's an intention behind it, but for the most part, he just kind of ignores the rules.
Yeah.
I think that's probably a lot of why he's so successful.
Yeah.
So it's tough to ignore rules. You feel like, I got to make the music like this. Like, nah, you don't.
Yeah.
Anyways, so that's the Lando news. It will tie into Rebuild the Galaxy. Let's start talking about Rebuild the Galaxy. So Cameron, maybe before we get in, Talk to me about. We know you're the resident Lego expert,
That's
and
correct.
I feel like I'm gonna be counting on you to explain certain things. Like you probably caught so much more that's like Lego stuff than I
Yeah.
did. But maybe first, talk to me about your background with like Lego movies in general.
Mm-hmm.
The only Lego stuff I've ever seen is the Star Wars Lego stuff.
Yeah.
So, are you familiar with all the movies and stuff?
No, not really. I mean, Lego's been making like TV shows and movies for a couple of years now. I know they've got that line Ninjago, this really popular, like really popular, successful TV show with that. A couple of Lego movies. I did see 2 of those. I've seen the Lego Batman movie, which there's a specific comedy style throughout all the Lego media that is really it's childish, but it's in like a satirical way or something.
Yeah.
So it's just a very like trademark way that those movies flow, and this show kind of had the same thing. So I'm more familiar. I grew up playing the Lego games, Lego Indiana Jones, Star Wars, and Batman.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are those kind of similar?
To this show.
Yeah, like comedy wise.
Yeah, for sure.
So Legos in general on screen and in games kind of have a similar tone.
There's a similar tone to it. Yeah, and a lot of the games were like there were no voices. It was just like grunts and noises and stuff. But like some of the physical comedy was kind of the same.
Understood.
Yeah, I will say there's one in the very first episode when Sig builds the first little like grass platform thing for Dev to fall on.
Okay, yeah.
The pieces all went together, and then as a built thing, it kind of like went up and then dropped itself back down when it was completed.
Right.
That's how all those games used to be, because you used to be able to walk up to certain little piles of bricks, and the bricks would start kind of bouncing around to indicate there was something for you to build.
Okay.
And then you'd hold down B or whatever, and then you'd watch the pieces like it'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it's like speed up as it's building,
yeah.
and then once it's completed, it like go up in the air and then like plop back down on the ground.
Gotcha.
So I noticed that was kind of a similarity that I noticed.
Okay.
I was like, yeah, I remember doing that in the games.
So it was a nice little nod there. I see. I'm sure that's what I mean when I'm saying like all that stuff probably went right over my head.
Yeah.
But I'm glad to hear that there was that and that you were able to catch. I'm sure others of it too. For the Star Wars Lego stuff, the last couple of years there was like a Halloween special. There was a summer special.
Yeah.
There might even have been like a Life Day special that's like holiday themed.
Mm-hmm.
I watched all those, and I think I watched them all one time.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe even it could have just been my headspace. I don't know. I felt like even while I was watching it, I had already forgotten it.
Yeah. It's not very deep.
Something about this though felt different.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
It was like a way more cohesive story. There's a lot more like character building. I feel like it wasn't surface level. It wasn't like, oh, that's funny, Darth Vader's like building a sandcastle. Ha ha. Which, by the way, I've got the Lego Star Wars Advent calendar from I think the year before had a custom figure in it that was a Darth Vader, but the torso was just like a beach tank top, and it came with a little buildable Vader's castle in tan, as if he was building it as a sandcastle.
Nice, nice.
Anyway,
have you gotten? You were telling me about the what do they call the TIE wings, or are they called the X fighters? I think.
The like TIE Fighter X-wing mix up from the show. Yeah,
and then you say that there's a Lego set coming out.
Yeah, it's out. That was a set that came out. Jedi Bob's Starfighter was a set that came out.
Have you gotten anything? Is my question.
No, I want to get the Dark Millennium Falcon because it comes with the light side Vader. So it's a Vader fig in all white.
Those are going to be like money, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's $170 for that set. So I'm hesitant to pull the trigger on it. But that figure alone is probably going to be a $25, $30 figure.
This is a good time to plug the Star Wars After Party Patreon so we can support Cameron's Lego habit. No, we did though. I will. I'm joking, but since we're on it real fast, I did mention last week we were doing like some restructuring. Basically, we just simplified everything. $3 get you in. Just come on and you get access to the Discord where we're talking Star Wars, you know, and as well as a bunch of bonus content. We're going through now and we're watching Clone Wars. We're doing like an arc a week. And I've been recording bonus content here and just uploading them as commentaries where you can listen along while you watch, or you can watch and then listen to the episode. It's all there. Star Wars After Party. Search it on Patreon or just patreon.com/Star Wars After Party. If you want to help the show out, you know, things like we've got, you know, money that we spend on recording and things like that. So if you are so inclined, come join us. We're having a good time. Okay. How about this? General thoughts about this miniseries, these 4 episodes. I'll start and then I want to hear yours. Ultimately, Kayla and I watched it. We watched 2 the first night and 2 the second night, and we had a blast. We were really, really into it. Like I said, I don't know what it was, but it felt there. I don't know. Maybe it was a different creative team. Maybe it was just the fact that it was like a mini series, and so they had a bit more time. I don't know. The other Star Wars Legos, I watched, and I don't know that I'd have been like, yeah, it's fine. I guess if you're a Star Wars fan, like it's fun for like 45 minutes. These were just a genuinely good time. I enjoyed the way that each episode kind of ended on a bit of a cliffhanger, and it was always something really cool. And I enjoyed, you know, the main characters, the interaction between the 2 brothers, just the entire premise of the galaxy sort of having to be rebuilt. Like it was just a riveting time, and we really enjoyed it. What about you, dude?
I thought it was great. I noticed a lot about the production of it that was like beyond what I expected. I was paying attention a lot to how they animated the figures, how their mouths moved and everything.
Right.
I thought it was really good. I also noticed, because I watched part of it on my iPad really close to my face. I laid down, I've got a 2.5-year-old daughter, and on Sunday afternoons I try to like nap with her. So she was asleep and I was sitting there with my AirPods in and I was watching it on my iPad. So that was the only light in the room. But there were just so many faded textures to the prints on the pieces. Like Jedi Bob's beard was like kind of faded in a couple of spots.
Okay.
Some of the bricks looked scratched and looked like they almost like they had like fingerprints on them.
Oh, interesting. Like they were being played with.
Yeah. Well, maybe not even that, but maybe just they looked a little bit worn in or tarnished rather than having this like pristine
shiny
animation. Yeah. Which I really appreciated.
Very cool.
A lot of the environments were brick built as well.
Right.
So like there's a lot of like Lego videos and movies and stuff where everything that's not like in your immediate focus isn't Lego built. It's just like a backdrop where it's like the planet or whatever.
Right.
They put a lot of time and detail into making the environments and the buildings and everything brick built. Like I could see like there's a plate right there and there's a brick right there and there's a slope over there. Like you could pause this show at any point and see all of the actual legitimate real Lego pieces that you would use to build that. So I think.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're saying it was like accurate. Like if I was building this, it would look.
Yeah,
just like
you
that.
could freeze a frame and be like, I'm gonna get out my parts collection and like build this scene right here. So nothing like
cool.
Nothing broke the like Lego system
continuity of
Lego. Yeah. Which goes to show you how far Lego animation has come.
Wow.
Because I remember being a kid like watching stuff. It was like, oh, that's a Lego thing because it's a figure.
Right.
But not because of anything else.
Wow. I don't think I appreciated it that way, but I mean, I did notice it to some degree, and I just think that's so cool that like if you're super into, because I'm watching it because I'm super into Star Wars. Don't get me wrong, like I love Legos as a kid.
Yeah.
I play with my nephews with Legos, and I really enjoy it. I still have to build the Havoc Marauder. I've been busy. We'll talk more about that why later. But yeah, I've been busy. But I love Legos. But it sounds like if you're really into Legos, even like maybe you're not even into Star Wars, if you're just into Legos, like it's cool for that.
Oh yeah.
So that's so cool.
Yep.
Talk to me about some more thoughts of the overall series. We'll pitch the characters before we start talking plot. Like, what did you think of our new characters? So the way I'm gonna define new characters as Darth Dev. Then we had, I'll say Jedi Bob, even though you'll give us the backstory on Jedi Bob. What was his name? Sig.
Sig Griebling.
Yeah, you'll give us the backstory on that as well. And then I can't remember his love interest name. I'll look it up. Why don't you do this?
Yeah.
Talk to us about Jedi Bob. I know you've explained it on a previous podcast, but for those people that are just coming in for the first time, who maybe don't know about Jedi Bob, and I'll get this other character's name.
Yeah, so Lego Bob or Jedi Bob was a Jedi that came in. They came out with a Republic gunship from like way a long time ago, back in like 2003, 2004, when Lego Star Wars was like brand new. It didn't have the cult following that it has today. It wasn't as big as it was. It was like, honestly, the franchise or the licensing of Star Wars for Legos pulled that company out of bankruptcy. So at the time,
really,
yeah,
Lego was going.
Lego
under.
was like going.
Star
under.
Wars saved Legos.
Yes.
Of course it did.
Yeah.
Of course Star Wars is going to save us all. Man.
That was 1999. 1999 is when the first year of like Lego
George
Star
Lucas
Wars
for president. That's as political as I'm getting. George Lucas for president. All right, sorry. Please.
Well, I was speaking of that. I was thinking earlier we were talking about Star Wars being fun.
Yes.
If it wasn't such a contentious, with all the implications involved and all the aggression and political drama. I was thinking how funny it would be to have a "Make Star Wars Fun Again" slogan, but there's some implications with that I don't necessarily.
There's a lot of political implications both within the Star Wars universe as well as our political universe.
The phrase itself. I was like, "Make Star Wars fun." That's my mento. But anyways, where was I?
You were talking about Jedi Bob. You said Star Wars save Lego.
It did. Yep. So back then, like Lego didn't have the cult following that it does. So I think they got away with a lot more just like random stuff that they threw in.
Okay.
So they came out with it was either a Republic gunship or an ATTE Lego set that came with this random figure in it called Jedi Bob.
Jedi Bob.
As an unnamed Jedi, wasn't.
No, so when you say it was Jedi Bob, was this something that was actually printed on the merch, or was just a random Jedi, and so fans were like, "He's just Jedi Bob"?
I can't remember.
Okay,
it's become such a big like.
It's just in the zeitgeist of Star Wars.
It's in the zeitgeist. Yeah. Okay. It's just like Jedi Bob. So yeah, that's where that came from. So when they announced this, and we saw the ads for it, I thought that was such a great nod to the fandom.
Right, I agree.
To bring in a character that has been made into something that it wasn't before. To be like, okay, Jedi Bob is going to be, one of the main characters. So and then to let Bobby Moynihan voice him, which is one of my favorite like old Saturday Night Live cast members.
That's a great point. They got Bobby playing Jedi Bob.
Yep.
The other new character, Yessie. That's her name. Yessie. And I would say the last new character would be Servo.
Servo, the little gonk droid.
I like that. I like little gonk droid. While we're talking about the characters, Gaten Matarazzo, aka Dustin from Stranger Things, played Sig.
Yep.
I thought he did a great job.
He did.
I really enjoyed him. As far as Star Wars characters go, Mark Hamill was playing Luke Skywalker. Anthony Daniels, 3PO.
Mark Hamill actually also helped produce the show itself.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I noticed in the credits. Yeah, because I was scanning through the credits because the guy whoever played the voice of Sig, I thought was Marcelo Hernandez, who is a new cast member on SNL. He just has a very identifiable voice to me, but it wasn't him. But I was like scanning through the credits. I was like, dang, Mark Hamill also like helped produce it.
Interesting. Ahmed Best back for Jar Jar Binks.
Yep.
Giving away the ending here, but Billy D for Lando, Kelly Marie Tran, Rose Tico, Naomi Aki played Jana. So lots of familiar voices, playing these familiar characters.
Yeah.
It was a blast. So let's get into the plot. So let's start to this is where we're gonna. If you've been listening so far and you're like, I'm just listening because I'm just kind of curious. Maybe now your interest is really piqued.
Yeah.
And maybe now you want to pause because we're gonna get into some heavy spoilers. We're gonna Rebuild the Galaxy for you. I know. But hey, we're talking about it. So essentially, let's see if we can break this down as quickly as possible. Sig unknowingly removes the cornerstone piece that Jedi Bob was
Supposed to
poorly
be
guarding, that made the entire galaxy collapse and create a new galaxy. You know, sort of like known very early on, like that maybe there's some more going on than what Jedi Bob is letting on, I suppose. But Sig then goes on this quest. You know, at the time he was basically a Luke Skywalker type character. Like he was kind of like, you know, stuck on his home planet. And his brother, was it Dev that really wanted to leave and it was Sig who really wanted to stay?
Yeah, Sig was the one that he was afraid, very reserved, insecure.
And eventually, you know, again, once he removes his cornerstone, now he's in the adventure, and turns out that in this alternate galaxy, like if it was left, it's right now. If it was up, it's down. And so his brother Dev is now like this evil character. He's basically the head Sith in charge. Palpatine's a Jedi master in hiding, and you know everything's turned upside down.
Yeah,
and you know ultimately the entire miniseries is about him trying to get this cornerstone piece, put it back into the new Jedi Temple in order to restore his galaxy. And we'll talk about how that sort of ends up later. But let's kind of go, I say episode by episode. I'm mainly just wanting to touch, you know, and Cameron, however you want to do it, but just highlight some different things. So how did you enjoy just the setup? I mean, I like the introduction of the characters. Again, I could just tell from the jump. I was like, okay, this is just a little bit different. Like, you know, I like that he, it started with him sort of recapping all the movies in the way
very quickly.
Yeah, in the way that we tend to do when we like, all right, and then this happened, and then that happened. Lot of poking fun at Star Wars. Lots of, felt like lots of sequel jokes like that. I felt like there was a lot of that. I was kind of, there were a couple times where I was like, they're really letting them, you know, get away with some things here. They're saying some things that, you know, maybe I wouldn't have expected. You know,
honestly, they probably didn't expect a whole lot of people to watch it, or the people that they expected to watch it be kids, not like dedicated Star Wars fans that pick up on everything. But yeah, I was like, man, y'all really like let them kind of rip.
Yeah, they did, and you know, maybe now's a good time to do it because it's a little out there, I guess, but you know, let's talk about it. It's I felt like that the whole idea behind Rebuild the Galaxy. Let's get a little meta for a sec, if that's okay, and then we'll slip back into what we're talking about. It felt to me like there was a bit of I guess you could say a theme, or you know, some kind of metaphor, or some kind of moral to the story. It felt like they were saying that the light side were the creators and the dark side were the destroyers. Yeah. Which, I mean, I'll be honest, like, that's kind of my philosophy. Like, I think if you're creating and making things, that's almost always going to be good. And if you're the kind of person that would seek to tear things down, it's probably not going to lead to any kind of real fulfillment. It's why I'm kind of like anti-critics. Like, it's not that I don't think that it's fair to like not like something, of course, but just like in general, criticism to me, it just I'm just not a big fan. I'd much rather focus on I'd like to just make stuff myself. Like it's just a thing I noticed in my life where I would constantly be like, oh man, this shouldn't have been like this. It should have been like that. And then I realized, oh, I can just make that thing. Right. Rather than waste my time talking out loud to basically no one, I could just make the thing. And I feel like there was a bit of a metaphor going on with that that they were. I mean, they literally explicitly said like the Jedi's are creators and the Siths are destroyers. He was literally Dev the Destroyer.
Yeah.
So I think that was something. Also, like it just felt like, and I might be a little bit more reaching here, but it felt like the Rebuild the Galaxy thing, which was essentially like every time the cornerstone was removed, the galaxy was reset and the old galaxy went away. Mm-hmm. It kind of felt like almost like the EU, like the way that canon was reset and how there are now all these people that want to erase the Acolyte and erase the sequel trilogy. But it's like when you do that, you're erasing someone's galaxy. Like someone loves that thing.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean? And so it's like on one hand, you know, you erase the EU, but there are people that I think about people like V who sometimes like write into the show and like how much they love the EU. And there are lots of people like that. And, you know, in some ways that was kind of taken away. And, you know, again, there are people that would seek to do that to the sequels, but there's a bunch of kids now. We're going to start hearing from them here in the next 5 to 10 years. I don't know that it will be as loud as the prequels or the original trilogy, but that's their Star Wars. And so I say all that to say, it just felt like a nice sort of reminder.
Parallel.
That like, you know, as we seek to quote unquote canonize or decanonize things, just remember that that is someone else's Star Wars. And you know, if we're going to critique a Star Wars, fair and fine, it's just maybe good to be mindful that like, hey, yeah, someone loves this Star Wars. Like, I really love the Acolyte. Like, I'm not saying it's my favorite Star Wars, but there's a lot of stuff I love. And like, I would hate to decanonize it. Like, I want to see those stories continue in some way or shape. So I don't know. I just caught all that and just thought it was an interesting thing.
That's a good point, because and the way that it was a very somber, but like very realistic note that it doesn't go back. Right. Like the whole show's about, and we can jump back in line with where we're at, but you know, you're comparing it to that, and you know, the whole show, Sig is trying to put it back. He's trying to put the galaxy back. You think that that's the goal of the show. He's like, he's trying to get the galaxy back. But then, you know, Jedi Bob comes in and is like, it used to be something else. And then it turned into this, and it doesn't. True. That was his like big mic drop moment at the end. It was like, no, you can put it back and protect what's here, but
that's
you can't go back.
And that I believe is the point that I'm kind of getting at, is like, dude, like this is not, if we want to reset canon, it's like even the canon today was not the canon of back then. And like, you know, the idea of like, hey, the sequels are the sequels. They're there. Like we can keep building it. We can keep, you know, I think Mando's doing a great job. Like think about The Mandalorian and Ahsoka and all these shows that are, you know, going from this Battle of Jakku time, which we're about to get some comics just in the next month, that are fleshing out all the time in between the original trilogy and sequels. And by the time they get there, it's going to be a vast, rich history. And we can have our complaints about the sequels. There are things that I wish went slightly differently, sure, but ultimately, like, it is what it is, and it's the galaxy that we're in. So calling for people's jobs and calling for this to be canceled and this thing to not be canon anymore, it's like, I don't know, man. Like, this is just the galaxy that we're in. This is it.
So we just live with it.
Yeah, it's just an interesting parallel that I thought. And anyways, so once things get reset, we'll start talking about some of the differences. We'll talk about some of these characters.
Which I thought was great. I mean, the ideas that they came up with were amazing, and I would have loved to have been a part of the like creative team. Because they got to play with like a Marvel what if of Star Wars. Right. And it wasn't self-contained. It wasn't like, oh, this is what if with Luke Skywalker. Right. This is everything. Everything. They changed everything.
Everything. It was cool because it was there were again like kind of like little nods. Like there were Lego nods, there were like the Darth Jar Jar thing. Like, you know, how long in Star Wars fandom has there been jokes about, oh, it was supposed to be Darth Jar Jar, and now here we are. There's Darth Jar Jar. There was, you know, in The Rise of Skywalker, there was that scene with Darth Rey, or, you know, Dark Side Rey, or whatever you want to call it. And like now we're seeing that here. There were just all of these different things. Even like redeemed Darth Vader with the white armor. That was like I want to say that was in like an old Dark Horse comic or something. Like,
yeah, that was like they played that way differently than I thought. I thought it was going to be like a very proud, noble, prestigious light side Vader, but it was actually just a really overly emotional, like insecure, not whiny, but he's just kind of a baby.
Yeah, and all that stuff, you mentioned like you thought it was going to be whatever. Like I thought the Darth Jar Jar thing, I thought it was going to be like a pretty big like plot point. I thought
me too.
Kind of like big bad. But really, all of those, and I'll be honest, maybe this is why I liked it so much, because in the past, it was always like, you're hanging out with Finn and Rostico and Lando or whatever. But I think maybe part of why this was so good is the fact that all of the characters we know, all of the actual Star Wars characters, were minor supporting characters.
Yeah.
The main characters, where the bulk of the plot and character development was happening, were all new characters. Mm-hmm. And so it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, but I think it was better for it.
Yeah, I agree. It was what people would refer to as like the fan servicey stuff. Yeah. Like all the plays on words and all the like little references and stuff. It wasn't the primary function of the show, but it was just slam full of it. Mm-hmm. So you got to enjoy it, and you got to kind of laugh and like slap your knee at like some of the references and stuff that they made. But yeah, it wasn't the primary function of the show to explore what if Darth Jar Jar was to take over the galaxy.
Right. And like that's, I guess, what I was expecting, but what we got was a more, straightforward narrative. I say
more
straightforward.
Generic.
I mean, it was
like a way more generic story.
I guess, but it was also way more imaginative than I thought, because like, the Rebuild the Galaxy thing, I went into it thinking that that's what was going to happen. I went into it thinking that, a couple things happened in the episode, and by the end, we're all happy and we're back. And it wasn't that. It was more like you got to let the past go. Like it was a lot more serious in that way than I expected. Yeah. And so, I can't get over how much I really enjoyed the story of this freaking Star Wars Lego show.
There was some pretty deep character development.
Absolutely.
With the reveal with Dev and like realizing that he is like suffering from the previous galaxy reset. He was like, all I've ever known is pain, and I've never enjoyed anything in my life, and wanting a brother, but not really knowing how to articulate that.
I don't think we have these kind of people listening to Star Wars After Party. If so, it's okay. We're glad you're here. But I felt like the way that they were talking and treating Dev, I think it was in the last episode when it was like the heart to heart. I can't remember specifically what it was. I wish I could, but it felt like Darth Dev was sort of the avatar of the disgruntled Star Wars fan. Like the way that they were saying like, hey, I get that you're upset, but like, this is what it is. Like, come on. Like, and like, it really felt, to me, it felt like it was laid on pretty thick. I could be wrong. Maybe my third eye's real open, or maybe my tinfoil hat is a little too tight, but it really felt like that's what it was.
I could for sure see that. It's like, it's okay, buddy. Like, you can just let go of the past. Like this, we can make the most of what we have now.
So it felt like that. I really enjoyed just the way, again, each episode really, like, there were like all these really interesting cliffhangers. Like, I think it was the second episode ended with Darth Jar Jar coming out. I was like, yes.
Yeah. And what did he say? He said, "You sat in big doo-doo." I think that was the first line he said. Great. I was like, I actually laughed out loud when I was watching. I was like, of course he would say that. It was
at that point I had like, it was funny. I take like magnesium, like a 400 milligram magnesium at night, just kind of relax or whatever. And I switched magnesiums, and it just like hit me super hard. Like, I don't know if it was just because it was like a different formula or whatever. And so it was like 9 o'clock. I'm thinking we're watching all four, and that scene happened, and I was like, we're gonna have to finish it tomorrow.
Yeah.
but I pulled a camera and I was like, I gotta finish the second half tomorrow, man.
Yeah.
I was out, bro. But anyways, I love that. That's just the cliffhanger nature, because I was excited the whole next day to finish it that night.
Yeah. What do you think your favorite? What do you think the biggest twist was for you?
The biggest twist.
Because I know mine.
Well, I felt like the Han Greedo thing and Han being the informant was a great twist. I should have seen it coming, because everything else was like, because I was trying, they let you know like, oh, there's a spy, like we have a spy.
Yeah.
And of course I was thinking it was Palpatine or it was Jabba the Hutt, or which is so ridiculous.
Jedi Jabba.
You know, I thought maybe Jedi Jabba is the spy. Of course it was Han Solo, and of course I should have known, but I didn't. I thought that was great. One of my favorite, like you said, fan servicey kind of things was when they were talking about how Greedo got with Leia, and they're like, "You're Han Solo. You're supposed to be with Leia." He was like, "I know, but he took his shot first." And I was like, "Oh, that's so good. That was a really good one."
Yeah, I think that was my favorite moment when Han, or when they land and Leia is like looking at them.
Yeah.
And I think it was Sig or somebody that was like, well, at least one thing is the same in this galaxy, because it's playing up like it's going to be Han and Leia. And then she runs up to Greedo and they're just like hugging. It's like, Greedo and Leia.
Wild.
It was funny to me.
What was your favorite twist? Did you have?
I think that was it.
It was good, man.
That or the Akbar troopers.
Oh my gosh!
It's a trap! It's a trap! I'm just going on and on and on.
Maybe it's just me, but the it's a trap is, man.
I know that one kind of stings for you.
Well, it's just that it's everywhere, man.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's in The Mandalorian. It's in every Lego special. Mm-hmm. It's a trap. I think it's even in Clone Wars. Like, it's just so funny to me that it's such a it's like the meme. Mm-hmm. Like, if there was one, it's got to be that one.
Yeah,
I think even bigger than like This Is Where the Fun Begins. Like, its trap is. I mean, it's fine. It didn't bother me.
Yeah.
It actually was very fitting that would be the thing that is like super overdone. Because it is super. It was almost like
it's unbelievably like off the wall to be like Admiral Akbar. That not only as a trooper,
yes,
but as a prequel era trooper.
Yeah, there's that, and just like it's almost like, again, kind of meta in the sense of like, because it's a trap is the most overdone trope. The fact that they would say literally 100 times, it's a trap, it's a trap, it's a trap, it's a trap. It's like, okay, they're actually almost like making it, made me respect it, I guess, because it's like they're almost making fun of how often that thing is made fun of, and so it worked. I mean, don't get me wrong.
They dug deep on some of the ways that they played those out.
Absolutely, and that is another one of those. There were a couple of these like real subtle fan servicey type things. And one of them was when they were talking about Admiral Akbar. He's like, "Hey, didn't you die?" Like, because like, you know, it kind of happened off screen a little bit. Like, you see him in Last Jedi. He's in the like the ship that they're in whenever it gets hit, and Leia goes out into space in Last Jedi. And so, like, on one hand, it's like, yeah, he did die, but it's also kind of like a blink if you miss it. And they kind of alluded to that in this show. It's just good, man. There's so much good stuff.
Yeah.
What are some other? I noticed Luke's wearing Padme's necklace thing that Anakin made her.
Oh, I did not notice that. I'm fairly
certain he's wearing like Padme's little necklace thing. Obviously, him being a pod racer and using the Force was
party boy.
A nice little a nice touch. What else stuck out to you? What are some other things that you were into?
How about Darth Fistu?
Oh yeah,
they took Kit Fisto as that was a kind of a deep cut. I feel like people don't appreciate him as much as they should as a character.
They absolutely should. We talked about him last week on the 2D Clone Wars.
Yeah,
he's definitely a character that every time he pops up, I'm like, I really like Kit Fisto. I don't know why, but I do.
Did you notice Jedi Lobot?
Is that who that was? Okay, all right. I don't know how I missed it now that you mentioned that it's
Well, he
Jedi
didn't say
Lobot.
anything because he doesn't talk. But yeah,
That's a great point. I was like looking at him, and I can't remember who I said I thought he was. I was like, oh, I can't remember now. But it was, I guess, yeah, it was his whatever his neural
his implants
are. Okay, thank you, Cameron. Now I feel a little bit ashamed that I could not remember. Oh, you know who I thought it was? Was he a Jedi or was he a Sith? Do you remember?
Yeah, he was sitting there in that room with Palpatine.
So he was a Jedi. I'll tell you who I thought he was when I saw him, because Dooku was there.
Yeah. Dooku was there. Jedi Dooku.
I thought it was Cypher Dyas, because Cypher Dyas had hair like that in Clone Wars, and so I was like, "Is that Cypher Dyas?" I just couldn't. It just didn't work for me. But okay, Jedi Lobot. That makes sense. Let's talk. We're talking about Lobot. Let's talk about the end. Let's talk about the Landolorian.
Dude, that sent me like,
oh man, you hear Billy D. You hear that, who was it that was it Dev or was it Darth Ray, or who was it that was hiring Lando? Do you remember? I'm trying to piece it together.
No, I can't.
Anyway, I guess it's not important. They're looking for Sig.
I think it was Ray.
It was Ray.
It was Ray. Yeah, because there was a moment, I can't remember all that was said, but like everybody was like happy again or whatever, and Ray was like, "This is not how it's supposed to be." Like she was going to take it into her hands to try and like stir some stuff up again.
Right. Okay. So she's hiring Lando, who is dressed as the Mandalorian.
That's correct.
Complete with hanging out with a baby Yoda, but it's Billy D. Williams. Mm-hmm. It was great.
It's like your brain.
And, like we said, the show did not end. Like it was clearly left open. I would say it was a straight up, cliffhanger. Yeah. We get to the end and there is no real resolution. Like in the end, like no, we're not, rebuilding the old galaxy. We've got to create this new one. And Dev, Sig's brother, ultimately is gone off, and he's continuing to go down this path of the dark side for the time being. Mm-hmm. And that thread is open, and now they're wanting to get Sig because they want to get this cornerstone. They want to be able to I guess, I don't know, do whatever they're going to do with the cornerstone in the galaxy. And it's interesting that we could see Lando, aka the Landolorian, hunting Sig along with Grogu.
Yeah.
I'm
evil
so
Grogu.
I'm so into it, man. I don't know why. I can't believe that I'm sitting here. I thought, we'll talk about it. It's the new thing.
Well,
I want to watch it again, and I want to watch season 2.
Yeah, they did it in such a playful way that it doesn't offend anything.
Not at all.
About what Star Wars. It's not. It's like kind of uncomfortable because you're like, oh, that's weird. That's not really how that character's supposed to be. But they do it in such a playful, vessel. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, I mean, whatever, it's okay. I forgot to mention my other favorite reference in this show was Sweetheart Darth Maul.
Oh yeah,
voiced by Sam Witwer.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he got out of the shit with Leia, and he was just like, he had a little potted flower in his hand, and he was smelling it, and he was just kind of like twirling around. I thought I loved Sweetheart Maul, and he introduced himself as, he's like, it's Maul, it's like Paul with an M. I was like, that's so stupid, baby. Yeah.
But there was just tons of it. I think the thing that I like the most about the Lando tease at the end is the fact that, what a zany thing, like Lando, but the Mandalorian. And there was that all over the place, Jar Jar, but Darth Jar Jar. And it's just fun to imagine what else there could be out there. Like all these other characters that we did not even begin to touch. Like, they're playing pretty fast and loose with the timeline. Like, Darth Vader is hanging out with an older, which I guess it makes sense because he's, not evil. So I guess he wouldn't have died on the Death Star. But then also, like,
why would he have the suit on?
There's that. But who knows? I'm sure maybe that's just it. Is like, okay, so now is there like an evil Obi-Wan out there who's married to Padme. Like, what? You know what I mean? Like, there's just all of these different, like, Asajj Ventress, but she's, I don't know what Asajj would be because she's both evil and good in the, anyways, the Bad Batch, you know, and or like all these different characters that are just totally fair game. I mean, they played a lot of the greatest hits, but there's a few out there that they didn't touch on at all. Finn, Poe, none of, you know, Chewie wasn't in it, I don't think. And so there's just a lot of things that can happen in the next season. And I guess I'm just here for it. It's what a pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
Like a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. I was not expecting to like this show so much, but I just did. I just liked it. I'm sorry. I know that it's not cool, but I liked it.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to see the Landalorian hunting Sig. What was he called again? Sig what?
Greebling.
Explain that, please.
Greebling is Greebling is when you use a lot of really, really tiny pieces in a very like miscellaneous scattered way to create like detail. So you think about like like if you're looking at an Imperial Star Destroyer where the top piece comes down and the bottom piece comes up and it kind of meets and you've got this straight line that goes down the length of the ship. There's all these little dots and textures and buttons or what texturing is basically what it is. So when you talk about greebling, you're talking about building some stuff that's random just to kind of give texture and detail.
Got it.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Cool. Well, I mean, again, I'm excited for season 2. I don't know if it's gonna be the Acolyte all over again or what, but I'm still excited.
I could see them turning this into a game more than I could see them doing a long-term continuation of a show.
Well, it seems, I don't know. I mean, I guess
because the way you're talking about
too.
it's like how could we pack in characters all over the galaxy and throw them in these random like weird configurations? Like just make a Lego Rebuild the Galaxy game.
That's possible too, man.
And then set it up just like Lego Star Wars where you can play movie by movie.
Sure.
And have it all jumbled up.
I'm down for that too.
Yeah.
I just get the sense that, you know, assuming that, you know, it doesn't tank in terms of no one watching, I'm just assuming that they're setting it up for a season 2. I don't know.
I hope so.
I haven't looked at anything, but
I hadn't either.
It felt that way.
Yeah.
Like the story is definitely not finished. So I'm all in on season 2 of Star Wars
Same.
Lego Rebuild the Galaxy.
Let's do it. More fun Star Wars.
Yeah, what a fun time. Any other things that jumped out? I mean, obviously there's plenty. I hope that everyone listening, if you haven't watched it, honestly, it was a good time. I would definitely suggest watch it with the kid in your life for sure. Like, I'll probably go back and watch this with one of my nephews at least, just because it's good fun. Like, they don't have to know all the characters. It's just a good time. It was an interesting story. Like you said, it looked great. There was so much solid action. Like, it really was, it was fun. I mean, I really, 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, whatever.
Yeah.
It was all there.
I had to look and see if it was actually Harrison Ford that played the voice of Han because I thought the voice sounded so accurate.
Did a good job. It wasn't though, right?
No.
Yeah.
It sounded a lot like a younger, cleaner Han Solo, but even like a lot of the voice inflections that he made were like, yeah, Harrison Ford would 100% say it that way.
Absolutely. So you mentioning Han Solo just one last time, you know, he was flying the Slave One, which was interesting.
Yeah.
Boba Fett. We didn't see Boba Fett. Like,
No.
again, there's just so many opportunities. We got 3PO. We didn't get R2.
I was just thinking about that as well.
So, I mean, as many characters as we saw, there's just as many
to explore
that we don't know. And if they're all as interesting as like Lando being the Mandalorian or Jar Jar being Darth Jar Jar or whatever, like I'm just so into it. I mean, it feels like the creative team was just allowed to just kind of do whatever. And it really felt like a very fun, creative, out of the box, just such a cool, you know, we talk about it on the pod a lot where it's like, yeah, sometimes the stuff that comes out, maybe it's not even as cool as the ideas that, we would just kind of have.
Yeah.
Not we, you and me, but just we as fans. But a lot of this felt fresh and just really interesting. So
exciting.
I kudos to the creative team.
Yep.
I'm definitely going to give it a rewatch. And if season 2 comes around, we're going to talk about it because it was fun. So I'm excited. Anything else, Cameron?
No, I'm about to head out and watch Return of the Jedi tonight with my girlfriend.
Dude, we're going to have to talk about that. Let's land this ship. Next week, we're talking all about Cameron and his girlfriend watching Return of the Jedi.
That's it.
Maybe not all about.
Maybe not all
but we're definitely going to talk about it, and you're definitely going to give us an update. I'm excited to hear how Lacey is enjoying the original trilogy. Dude, you think... I know she listens to the show. Hey, Lacey, call in. Call in and tell us your thoughts about the original trilogy.
Ooh.
And that call-in offer is not just for her. Just, if you want to, record a voice memo on your phone, send it in to starwarsafterparty@gmail.com, and we'll play you. Maybe you want to talk about Rebuild the Galaxy. Maybe you want to talk about this Lando news about making it fun. Whatever.
Yeah.
I'm down.
I am too.
All right, cool. Well, until next time, Tyler out.
Cameron out.
This party's over.